Okay, we should be live on YouTube over here on this side and Facebook over here. So I'm actually pretty excited because I got a new microphone right here. And this microphone is actually hooked up to my phone on this side over here, which is the one that uses YouTube. So if you're watching live on Facebook, I'm actually using a different microphone. I'm using a shotgun microphone, which is the same type of microphone that you put on top of digital cameras, which is over here on this side here. So this one right here on this side, I'm using a shotgun mic, and this one over here, I'm using the new microphone I have here on a boom stand. Anyway, this is not about microphones, but I wanted to share that part of the excitement of today. So this is day 26 of the Daily Drucker, a social ecologist. For me, the tensions between the need for continuity and the need for innovation and change was central to society and civilization. So Peter wrote a book called The Ecological Vision. I believe it's from the 70s and 60s. And on this book, he coins the phrase social ecology. And what he does is, and I read this and I won't read anymore, and I'll kind of tell you my interpretation. So what he does is he talks about natural ecology as being the study of life, being the study of nature, being the study of the environment. And when you study natural ecology, you're essentially studying things that are not meant to change drastically. So the environment is supposed to be pretty predictable. Natural sciences are pretty predictable. We know and understand where things come from, and we can explain what's going to happen at the same time that we can predict what's going to happen. Now, society and civilization, it's different than that. Society and civilization changes over time. Not only it changes, but it feels the need for a change. Society and civilization is almost engineered to be evolving and to be changing. So whenever we're talking about enterprise and organization management, we know and understand that the very nature of man is to evolve its organization, the people around them, and civilization. So he talks about the social ecologist because he studies, Peter Drucker studying, how society and economics have to change over time. And in contrast, nature and regular natural ecology does not. So he actually talks about a couple of stories from hundreds of years ago where they start comparing conservatism and liberalism. And this is this was relevant 150 years ago, relevant 100 years ago, relevant 50 years ago, and relevant today. In politics, there are two schools of thoughts. There's being a conservative, being a conservative. What was the term that he used? Let me go back and go back and read it. What did he say? Oh, conservative. So he's talking about being a conservative versus being a liberal, right? A conservative is one that looks at everything around them, the way natural ecologists do, which is, hey, this is the way the rules are. This is how nature is. It needs to be like that. It needs to be preserved, and we need to predict what's going to happen. We don't want to insert any change or innovation into the environment or natural ecology. It's like that, and we're supposed to conserve it. And there's also the other side of the spectrum, which is liberal. And liberal is someone that is almost forcibly wanting to change things or wanting to adapt to changes around them, and if you look at how the world has changed over time, civilization is liberal. Now, Peter Drucker, being a management expert and being an economist, he considers himself a conservative liberal, which means that he recognizes that there are things that are basic rules of nature and humankind and human nature and society and civilization that we must respect, or we should respect, because we're not going to be able to survive in a social ecology or in a social ecosystem if we don't. And there's other areas in which we must proactively innovate and change, and we must almost be the leaders of that change at the same time. So, so on day 26, and this is very relevant to me because, and it's very relevant to the times, because I myself, being a younger person, I'm 37, I've always considered myself a liberal, right? I'm for technology and for change. I love the changes in society and civilization, and I feel and I want our politics to be the same. But as I get a little bit older and I start realizing that some of the old, some of the traditional, and some of the things that we do them because they've been there all the time is for a reason. It's because there are so many things worth preserving, worth conserving, and worth respecting. Now, I always wear different shirts of different brands. This is a QuickBooks shirt. I want to say I don't work for QuickBooks. I wear my backwards hat because I don't want to give them double branding because I don't work for QuickBooks, but I'll do it this time because some people have criticized my backwards hat before. But but my own views have changed over time. Although I've been a liberal for a very long time, as I study more economics and management and people, and I study what has worked, and I go back and read books that is knowledge from 50 years ago, and I realize that it's still relevant today. I start realizing over time that there are things worth respecting and conserving, and I also consider myself a liberal conservative or a conservative liberal, because I do very much want to respect the stuff that works, because there's reasons why it works. There's reasons why there are things that are fundamental. Anyway, something I learned over at Intuit when I was there in the council a couple of months ago, one of the executives or one of the product managers, I don't remember who it was, said something very interesting, and this is relevant to me, and maybe some of you, is QuickBooks is going to a transition where they have a traditional desktop software that they've been selling for 30 years. And the QuickBooks brand, it's mostly connected with desktop legacy software that's had 30 years to build a brand. And they're investing heavily into transforming that and selling a new product called QuickBooks Online that's all cloud-based. And one of the product managers or developers or executives, I don't know what he said, they said that strategically speaking, Intuit wants to do two things: embrace the new while respecting the old. And that seems so, that seems so simple. But now as I read this and I kind of think about it, this should be a life philosophy for any manager or leader. You should always be cognizant that there's a lot of old that needs to be respected, a lot of legacy needs to be respected, while we also have to keep an open mind and respect the new. So sorry, it's not cut and dry and simple, like you have to pick a side. Life is full of nuances, and I believe that the study of conservatism and the study of liberalism combined and being somewhere in the middle is probably the best possible way to be as a leader, manager, entrepreneur, or all-around person trying to be a positive force in this human society and business ecosystem. Anyway, I know that went a little bit long, but I wanted to try my new microphone, which, by the way, this microphone is hooked up to the YouTube phone. So if you want to see what that sounds like and compare it with the one of the Facebook microphone, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel under my name, and you can contrast it to it. Maybe give me some comments about which microphone was better. Okay. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.